couple few months ago, Lyric and I were asked to do our very own first podcast. Like we were the ones being interviewed. It was really so much fun. And Lyric, I mean, not for nothing, he's such a great speaker. In fact, last night he spoke at the Starshine Gala. Oh my gosh. I think I'm raising a future broadcaster. That or a game show host. I don't know. Whichever one pays them more, right? Anyway, when we were on the Rocky Mountain ADA Center's podcast, Adventures in Accessibility, it was just so wonderful, right? And I wanted to bring them on because I don't know if you know this, but there are ADA centers across the country, and they all have several states that they work with. Please welcome to the show, Emily Schumann. She's the director of the Rocky Mountain ADA Center. Hi, Emily. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much. How are you?
I'm so good. And I'm so grateful that you're here because I want you to let everybody know, what is the ADA?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the ADA is a civil rights law that was passed in July of 1990, and it specifically protects people with disabilities from discrimination. So it's similar to other civil rights laws that people are familiar with, the Civil Rights Act and, those similar types of laws. But this is specifically to protect people with disabilities from being discriminated against, and make sure that they have access to equal opportunity, right? So they can go to work, they can live independently, they can be self-sufficient, contribute to the economy, all of those things.
So it's 35 years old, Emily.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think we're at with the ADA? Like, do you think we're moving in the right direction? Do you think we've made leaps and bounds and improvements, or do you think we still have a long, long way to go?
Well, I think, when I've talked to the activists who were around before the ADA was passed, and who were involved in getting the movement going in order to enact that legislation, it's clear that we are leaps and bounds ahead of where we are. Or where we were, where we were before the law was enacted. So we've definitely made a lot of progress since then. Buildings are more accessible. There's a lot more just of a natural cultural conversation around disability and accessibility. People used to be living in institutions if they had disabilities, and so that's largely been done away with. People with disabilities are mainstreamed in schools now. Obviously, we have lots of people with disabilities in the workforce. So all of these are massive improvements from where we were. But of course, there's always room to grow, right? So we still have some negative attitudes towards people with disabilities.
I can't imagine that. Like, how do you have a negative attitude? About what? Is there something specific that people are hem-hawing about? There's always going to be naysayers.
Yeah. It's usually things like, people with disabilities can't contribute to society, or they're a drain on social services, or, we use our taxpayer dollars to take care of them, basically, are some of the common attitudes that people will have. Of course, largely those are myths and misconceptions. So attitudes is one of the biggest barriers. And then, of course, the digital world, right? That's another area where the ADA didn't really account for the changes in technology that we've seen over the last 35 years. So there's still work to do in that area too.
And now there's 10 different ADA centers across the country. You're one of the 10. In Colorado, so you have Colorado, and then what are the other states that you help?
Sure, yeah. So our 6-state region is Colorado, Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Utah. And like you said, we are just one of 10 regional centers. So each of the 10 centers are broken up by the sort of federal regional map. And so there's a center that's allocated for each state in the country.
Is the government shutdown affecting you guys?
Indirectly. So our services are still open. We're still open and helping people navigate the ADA and figure out what their rights are. But, since we are federally funded, our funders are not available to us. So if we have questions about, our funding status or grant related questions, we're not able to talk to those people who can give us those answers. And then the biggest way that we're impacted right now is, normally we help people navigate how to file complaints, right? So if they have if they've been discriminated against and they need to file a complaint with the EEOC or the DOJ, we can kind of help direct them through that process. But those agencies, of course, are closed and they're not accepting complaints even. So
I can only imagine the backlog when they do get back to work, right?
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
want to be that emailer.
Yeah, no, I'm shocked that they're not at least accepting the complaints, right? Like, so we're having to help people navigate alternate ways to kind of resolve their issues, which is, not always easy or even feasible.
With me today, Emily Schuman. She's the director at the Rocky Mountain ADA Center. When we get back, we're going to talk a little bit about some services and programs and training that you can take advantage of. Stay with me.
Don's Tree Service is awesome.
Love Don's Tree Service. They've come out for a giant oak tree removal, another for some debris removal.
One thing I really appreciated about Don's Tree Service, they come, they take those trees down, and they take everything away.
For a free estimate, call Don's Tree Service, 770-413-TREE, or find them online at donstree.com.
Welcome back to Life with the Spectrum. I'm your host, Gina Cavalli. With me today, Emily Schuman, director of the Rocky Mountain ADA Center with 10 centers across the country. You handle 6 states and all the wonderful people within them. You had mentioned a couple of things about like training and processes and things like that. Care to share what that looks like do you do that with businesses or individuals or both?
Yeah, both. So all of the 10 centers exist as educational centers, right? So we provide information, guidance, training, and resources on any aspect of the ADA. And so, of course, people with disabilities have questions, we answer those. Businesses have questions, we answer those. And we do trainings for groups that may need to all know about the ADA all at once. So if it's like frontline staff of customer service representatives or a group of ADA coordinators, we can provide training in those environments as well. So it's important to note we're not enforcing agencies and we're not advocacy organizations either. We're just strictly informational. And all of the work that we do with community members is confidential.
Well, Emily, you're doing great work there amongst your 6 states and then the ADA as a whole. Tell everyone about your podcast and do all of the ADA centers have one or is it just you guys out there?
Well, we're the only center that has like a traditional podcast. Some of the other ADA centers have like a webcast or, they have voice conversations that they post on their websites and stuff. But all of the ADA centers try to find creative ways to put out information, and really humanize disability. So that's what we're trying to do with our podcast, Adventures in Accessibility, where we talk to prominent figures with disabilities, just to learn more about them and to understand what life is like for them and really, get to see the different facets of people, because the ADA can be so dry and black and white and,
right.
we want to humanize it. We want to get people to understand that real people are impacted by this law, and are out there doing great things.
I love what you guys are doing out there. I love your podcast. And thank you again for allowing Lyric and I to be on the podcast. He's a little ham, isn't he?
Oh, he was such a delight. Yeah. And I love, that's one of the things I love about the podcast is that, if you're like in rural North Dakota, for example, you may never have had exposure to somebody like Lyric, right? And so you may have some perception in your mind or thought in your mind about what a person with a disability is like. So I just, again, that humanization I think is so important because, it's great we have laws and, the legal systems that protect people, but we're never going to impact those attitudinal barriers until we can get people with more exposure to people with different backgrounds and disabilities and abilities and things like that.
Amen to that. Where can people find the Rocky Mountain ADA?
So if you want to find us specifically, you can go to RockyMountainADA.org. If you're just looking for your individual regional center, I would recommend just calling our 1-800 number, 1-800-949-4232, and that will connect you based on your phone number to your local center. Or you can go to ADATA.org and find your local center.
And how can people find your podcast too?
It's in all your favorite podcatchers. Just search for Adventures in Accessibility and you'll be able to find it.
Emily, thank you so much for being on the show. And thank you for all of the amazing work that you guys continue to do.
Thank you, Gina, and likewise.
Such a great podcast. Remember to grab it wherever you grab your podcast or go back on the Rocky Mountain ADA Center.org website. All right. Every week we're bringing tools and resources, organizations and foundations like the ADA that's covering 6 different states. Now, wherever you're living, if you know somebody that's making a difference in the world of autism or disabilities in general, please reach out to me. Let me know. You can find me, lifewiththespectrum.com, Gina at gcast.com. That's GKASTS.com. And we can book them for a future episode of Life with the Spectrum. All right. I appreciate you checking in, liking, commenting, sharing, and most of all, subscribing to the channel and always grabbing it as a podcast. So till next week, we live life with the Spectrum. See ya.
Bye.